Welcome to the show, Black and Gold Weekly. I'm your host, Charles Johnson. Of course, we come to you every week presented by Bet Safe Colorado. And, I wanted to start the show. I thought about this show a lot, as you could imagine, coming off of what was an epic weekend for college football, certainly an epic weekend for our Colorado Buffaloes. I can't wait to get into it. But, I was a little confused, to be honest with you. I didn't know exactly how to start the show. Of course, we're going to shout out our presenting sponsor, Bet Safe Colorado. They do such a great job in what they do. And, I'm a naturally humble guy, so I didn't want to be too pompous, if you will, in my enthusiasm, given what took place down in Fort Worth, Texas this past weekend. I thought about just opening the show and asking whoever was listening, do you believe? But my guess is the answer is pretty obvious now. That's a resounding yes, given what took place. So I guess I'll just start the show by saying, hey, listen, that was impressive. In fact, I will say that's probably the most impressive victory I've seen for the University of Colorado's football team since I've been around. That dates back to 1987. And I know there are people out there who'll say, well, wait a minute, CJ, pump your brakes, man. I mean, you're talking about an undefeated season in 1989. You're talking about a 1990 season, both of these teams on which I participated, where, you played for a national championship. You win one in 90, a game that you were voted the MVP. And how could you say it's almost blasphemous? How about 94? Cordell Stewart to Michael Westbrook. Miracle at Michigan. How can you say this game at TCU to start the Coach Prime era is the most impressive, I think, victory in at least the almost 37 years that I've been around? How about 62-36? And we'll talk a little bit more about that with Nebraska coming up this upcoming weekend. It is rivalry week right here in Colorado, so we got a lot to talk about there as well. How could that be? Yeah. I mean, man, it's been some great games here at CU. True. That said, given where this program has been and the depth from which Coach Sanders, Coach Prime, and that coaching staff and those players were climbing from, I have to tell you, and I thought long and hard about this, because, again, I'm not one that's for hyperbole. I'm not one that's going to, that's the best ever. I have a sister-in-law, and I love her dearly, but every time we go out and eat, everything she tastes, it's just the best she's ever had. And oftentimes, it's the best she's ever had in the same meal, right? Like, that's the best entree I've ever had. The next bite she takes, that's the best. I mean, I'm not that guy. I'm kind of muted in my, sort of enthusiasm about things like this, but I can't escape it. This was, I believe, the most impressive victory. And I don't want to say the history, but certainly in the time that I've been around. And I'll tell you why. I mentioned part of it a minute ago, the depth from which this program was climbing. I was optimistic about the outcome of the game. And quite frankly, the outcome didn't have to be a victory. I thought we just needed to see, of course, a victory was always possible. But if we saw progress, given what we have been witnessing for the last several years, something on which we could build and create a sense of optimism, just kind of grow on, that would have been progress. But to go into Fort Worth, Texas, and to beat a TCU team that played for a national championship a year ago, granted, they've lost some great pieces, but you don't just lose everything. There was a culture and a number of players that were back off of that team that was in the finals a year ago. To go in there on an opening day with a team that was of a roster that was completely turnover from a year ago. I mean, complete turnover. I'm considering all this as I think about this game. Wow, how long will it take for it to gel, right? How long will it take in real game fire for it to actually come together? Football is different. It's not like basketball or some other sports where you can actually really get close to real live game type environments in practice. You can turn up the intensity. You can bring in officials for basketball scrimmages. Football is different, particularly college football. You don't even get the chance, like in the NFL, to practice in a preseason against another team. It's you on you. And for CU to go out and to look as impressive as they did and play one of the cleanest games I've seen CU play in probably over a decade. 6 penalties. I think 0 penalties in the first half, 6 penalties overall. That was impressive. And I'll tell you what was even more impressive than that. I remember sitting there in that stadium, and by the way, the environment was electric, and the CU fans represented. There's more on that coming as well. There's something happening here with Coach Prime that goes even beyond the enthusiasm and the interest of people who have a vested interest in the University of Colorado. I'll talk about that more in a second as well. But to go in and to establish yourself, showing the poise of a team that looks like they've been together for 4 years. And it really came to fruition for me late in the third quarter. CU's up, TCU driving down. It's a 1-score game. TCU scores a touchdown. They take the lead. Late in the third quarter, CU gets the ball, and they methodically march down the field to score in that hostile environment, hot, 100 degrees. If I wasn't so cool, I would have burned up in there, but I was fine. And recapture the lead. That to me was the most impressive sort of period during the course of that game that I experienced. A game of many impressive periods. The opening stanza or the opening sort of series of the game. CU wins the toss, defers to the second half, kicks off to TCU, 3 and out, receives the punt, go down and score a touchdown. So many points in that game that was so impressive to me. But that third quarter, because the game was getting tense, right? And you're getting close to the closeout. And TCU in front of that hostile home crowd takes the lead. And that young team of newcomers, this is when you're really tested. And I'm thinking this is the biggest test of this game for this team. And to watch Sheduer Sanders methodically lead the charge and marching that team down the field for a go-ahead touchdown, and then came back in the fourth quarter having to do it again to secure the victory, I think just simply secures this win, in my opinion, as the most impressive that I've seen in the time that I've been around the University of Colorado, and I've been a part of it every day of my adult life, if you will, since 1987. That's how big this game was. And, I just can't say enough about Coach Sanders, that coaching staff up there, getting this team ready for, so many things that, look, again, until you see it in live fire, you just really don't know. Somehow I think Coach Prime, he understood it. He knew. He had a feeling. Supremely confident in his players and his team, even though the vast majority of them he just met within the last, 6, 7, 8, 9 months, having been to battle with only a handful of them before in his previous stint at Jackson State. This was nothing short of spectacular, folks. And, I thought I'd come in and we'll wrap up what was the TCU opening game pretty quickly and get on to what I know I love to talk about. And that, of course, is Nebraska. Can't tell you how overjoyed I am to have them back on the schedule and coming into Folsom this weekend. We'll get to that as well. By the way, my dear friend Joel Klatt, who does an amazing job on that Fox broadcast, he and Gus Johnson, I think the best team in college football. He'll be joining me here today, and we'll break not just the TCU game down of which he called, but Gus and Joel will be calling the Nebraska game. It is the big noon big noon Saturday game on Fox Sports this upcoming Saturday. So looking forward to hooking up with Joel. Man, we go but way back. I wonder how far he'll go with a particular story having to do with Nebraska. We'll see coming up here with Joel. But we'll talk more about this TCU game Sheduer Sanders, record-breaking day. I think 38 of 47, 510 yards passing, 5 touchdowns. I thought the kid was just short of flawless. Just short of flawless. The best quarterback in college football this past weekend. Again, I'm not one for hyperbole. If you don't believe me, just go check the stats yourself. I'm sure to tell you exactly what I'm telling you. That kid was the best quarterback, Sheduer Sanders, in college football this past weekend. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up who I thought was the best football player in college football this past weekend. Travis Hunter. I have never seen anything like it before. I grew up a Detroit kid, and I'm a CU Buff first and a Michigan Wolverine second. That's my second favorite team in college sports. I grew up singing "Hail to the Victors," so I've watched some great players come through that program. And Charles Woodson came to mind as I'm watching Travis Hunter. Nothing Charles Woodson did in his campaign to be Heisman Trophy winner back in, I think, 97 compares to what I saw this kid, Travis Hunter, do. I've never seen anything like it. 129 plays, I think. I think he took 129 snaps, not one of which where he was really a decoy. Now, he didn't get the ball on offense every offensive play, but he wasn't used as a decoy or someone to draw the attention of the defense to make something else happen. I'm sure that was the case from time to time, but most of the times in passing situations, he was the primary guy. And on defense, he was just amazing. Amazing. One interception, could have easily been 2. A number of pass breakups. Almost scored a touchdown on a pass that he just couldn't quite secure, bobbled there in the corner. The guy is phenomenal. He's as good as advertised. I remember coming on, I think it was the first show we had. I said just that. Trust me, I've seen him in practice. He's as good as advertised. I was wrong. He's better than advertised. This young man is phenomenal. Not to mention Dylan Edwards, Xavier Weaver, Jimmy Horn Jr. This team is stacked with talent. I think we knew that, but what we didn't know is how well it would come together. I couldn't have dreamt of a better scenario for CU to start this season off with. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. And if Coach Prime would have asked me today, I'd spent a little time with him yesterday and, kind of reflecting back on the TCU game and looking forward to Nebraska. If you would ask me, CJ, I don't know, man, do you believe? Yeah, I don't know if I think about it much. I think the answer would just be, yeah, Coach, I kind of believe, man. I kind of believe. No, I believe wholeheartedly. And if you don't, I think something's wrong with you. That doesn't mean CU takes the field this upcoming weekend and just blow the doors off a Nebraska team that has pride. They stumbled in their first game of the season against Minnesota on the road. But that's a program that I can guarantee is full of pride. There's no love lost between Matt Rule and Coach Prime. If you recall, Matt Rule was pretty... got a lot to say about Coach Prime's approach to flipping this roster early on, making some comparisons, really taking shots, as did a lot of coaches, given how Coach Prime decided to run his program. There's no love lost there. And so I expect the Cornhuskers to come in and give it the best shot. I expect it to be a dog-eat-dog game. A dog-eat-dog game. There's a lot at stake. We'll talk more about the upcoming game, but I can't leave what I experienced down in Fort Worth so fast. I mean, I just wish you all could have been there and just felt the anxiety, which is what it started out as. So I was just anxious. I wanted to see how it looked. And then a sense of calm after that first series of downs where CU got the 3 and out and then marched down the score. Watching Sheduer under duress at times just flat out take that defense apart with the greatest exhibition of poise. I mean, again, the best quarterback in college football this past weekend. To watch something I've never seen, Travis Hunter, 129 plays, and it looked like if he had to run 130 plays, that 130th play would have been with the same sort of energy as you saw play 1. Guy, I can't explain how he does it. Dylan Edwards, as I mentioned, I went through a list of names of young men who were just flat out spectacular. but I just wish you could have been there to experience it. It's been tough for CU fans over the past several years, culminating in what was probably the toughest year in program history last year when we went 1-11. And to see it less than a year later turn around the way it did, boy, I tell you what, it was a special day, a special day. Again, this is Black and Gold Weekly, brought to you by BetSafe Colorado. I tell you what, let's hook up with our dear friend and my former radio partner, the best in college football in terms of broadcasting, Colorado's very own. I think he was one of those record holders in terms of passing yards at CU. I mean, the guy's just Mr. Everything. He's kind of like Mr. America, right? The Dos Equis, man, whatever. We're going to hook up with Joel Klatt. Joel, man, it's so good to see you, man. And before we get started, I just want to tell you how very proud I am of you, man.
Stop lying.
I know. Hey, listen, listen. No, can I have a moment?
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes,
listen,
go
man.
ahead. This is nice.
Give me 10 seconds.
This is nice,
and then you can rip me apart after that. But I am, man. I think, I remember specifically, Joel, we had so many memories over the course of the last 10 or so years.
Yeah.
But I remember specifically a ride we took as we were going to play golf up in Holyoke, Colorado.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
Just had great conversation, man. And it was at that point that I said because it's probably the first time we really had like extended time, just you and I, chopping it up, kicking it, the fellas. And I knew then, I said, this guy's special, man. He's I see why Coach Barnett love this guy so much, and I see why he had
because
so
it wasn't his play on the field.
No. Hey, listen, we're talking about records. Didn't you hold one of those passing records or something like that at one point?
I mean, I had a few at one point, but that's just because I was right after you guys stopped running the option, so it's like, there was a lot of passing records to be had at that point, but man.
212 yards passing record.
That's right.
236 yards, new passing.
New passing record.
But you had some 400s.
I did. But I tell you, I've never seen, and I referenced this on the broadcast Saturday, and I'm sure we'll get there. I don't want to jump ahead, but I remember that car ride. First of all, that was great. I loved working with you. That was so much fun. Saturday was, I'm trying not to be hyperbolic, and I know what Cordell did. In particular, the day at Michigan. But as far as like a full game performance, I think that was the best quarterback performance I've ever seen in that uniform. I don't think that that's going too far for what Sheduer did against TCU Saturday.
Joel, it's funny. That's how I started this show. And I had a slightly different twist on it. I thought it was the most impressive win, giving all the circumstances that I've ever seen. I've been here since 1987. It was the most impressive win again. But you're right, Sheduer, and I think it's couched the same way and for the same reasons. He was, I don't know that I've ever seen with the possible exception of number 14, a quarterback play such a clean game from start to finish. His misses were barely misses, right?
Yeah.
And quite frankly, 2 or 3 of them could have been catches. And so
big ones, by the way.
Phenomenal.
A couple of deep balls that could have been caught.
That's exactly right. So let me get to that. Since I have you, listen, when 2 quarterbacks get together, it's a different level of intelligence and,
that's right.
and
that's
football
right.
acumen. So I got to take advantage of this.
That's right.
Usually I have linemen.
Is Coy coming? Wait, where's the second?
My dog. That's my dog right there.
Hey, man, I'm sorry. That was rude. You came on being nice. That was rude. I love you.
Listen, man, I teed you up, man. And so you did exactly what I expected you to do, right? 350 yards right down the middle of the fairway. But let's look at this, man, because I look at Sheduer Sanders, and I'm sure you were probably as eager to sort of see it in live action as anyone. I was so impressed, one, with his poise, but 2, I thought, because I can always tell what's going on in a quarterback's head, sort of the rate of his heartbeat by his feet. His feet were so smooth and calm the whole game that I'm like, man, I'm looking at a young kid playing his first Power 5 game ever. looked like he's been doing this for 4 or 5 years.
So your heart rate increases and your feet and the rate at which they move increase when you are seeing something that you don't expect, right? Because it's human nature then to kind of like flinch, panic, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Which suggests to me that they never gave him something that he didn't expect. So I was so impressed on so many different levels. I'll start with just the clean operation. To have 68 new scholarship players, brand new offense, brand new offensive coordinator, brand new quarterback, brand new everything. Okay, everything's brand new. Gold numbers are brand new, and like they were clean. They operated as if that was a veteran offense that did it last year. So that was number one. His performance was exquisite, and in particular, his ability to use his mind. Okay, so as you know, a quarterback has to understand where the ball needs to go. Now, there are times when your team can just be better than the opponent, and it doesn't matter what the numbers are. You can run the ball, you can throw the ball, and you're just better than them, okay? I didn't feel like that was going to be the case with Colorado because of their offensive line. I don't think their offensive line is bad, but I feel like at times they have to be advantageous. Heck, we did as well, right? Like we had to play around our offensive line at times when I was a quarterback as well, which meant, generally speaking, the play had to go through my mind. I know that scares you a little bit because you know how crazy I am, but the play had to go through. So here's what I'm basically saying. You don't run it unless you have to run numbers. Every time you're throwing it to the proper ratio side, to the proper leverage side. And time again, the ball went to the perfect spot, the right spot, I should say, on time and on target. That's all you can ask from a quarterback. And he did that so well all day long. Then you get a great performance when you couple that operation, the ball going through the quarterback's mind first, and then you take it to the next level when that quarterback doesn't shy away from big moments and big throws and makes them, right? And so that's the 3rd and 16 in the fourth quarter to Travis Hunter on the slot fade. Yes. That's the 4th down. That's the fade to Xavier Weaver. That's the 3rd down to Dylan Edwards. Like, he never shied away from those moments, and he never, at least in that game, his performance never declined. So many times you see a quarterback and his heart rate increases, his feet increase, and then the ball becomes inaccurate in the biggest moments of the game. That didn't happen with Sheduer. That's why all of those things are why I sit there and I'm like, that's as good as I've ever seen anyone play in that uniform.
You know, Joel, I had a chance. By the way, well said there. I had a chance to catch up with him briefly yesterday. I was on campus, and just to give you an idea of I think that makes your point even more. He was beating himself up on the 3 or 4 plays that he didn't make. Mm-hmm. That's where his focus was. And as you know, as a quarterback, that you obsess over those things as opposed to saying, "Oh, here are the 38 things I did well." Yeah. He made the point to me. He said, "Coach, I took a sack or two where I probably could have tried to force something. But I realized pre-snap and then it was reinforced post-snap that I just didn't have it. And so I wasn't going to try and force something. I begrudgingly took the sack so that we wouldn't, not to force a turnover or something negative happening." I thought that was as mature a statement or a mindset for a quarterback as I've heard. And again, playing in his first Power 5 football.
Yeah, and now the challenge will be to do that again, and because so many times, he played about as well as you can play, and so many times you go hunting for more.
Yeah.
And sometimes as a quarterback, more means more of the same. Continuing to stay within the system, continuing to make sure that the ball, sometimes playing quarterback is boring. Right, because it's not always the big throw. It's not always the big play. It's the boring, mundane play that keeps you on schedule as an offense. It allows the offense to play with rhythm, and those are the reasons. Heck, that's why I had any success, because I was like, hey, I can't really make the big throws. So man, I'll be boring all day long.
Man, stop. Now listen. That's the last of that, man. I appreciate your humility.
No, but again, operation. I majored in operation. I'm okay with saying that even, right? Like, the best, I think the greatest quarterbacks are the ones that major in operation and then also make above and beyond plays.
That's right.
And not everyone can do that. And some of us just have to be honest with the fact of like, how above and beyond can you go? Well, he went way above and beyond in big moments, big throws. But all of us at that position, you have to major in the mundane first to be really good. And he did that. And that'll be the challenge moving forward, is like, you've got to make sure that you're taking care of those boring things first.
No doubt about that, Joel. Before we get, because I have a question. I know you've been bullish on Coach Prime from day one. I've listened to you. There were naysayers out there. You knew better, right? And I trusted your commentary on it. I got a chance to spend time with him. I developed my own sort of confidence in what was forthcoming for CU. Hold that for a second. Before we leave the game itself, Travis Hunter, I said in the first block of this show, never seen anything like it.
No.
I've just never seen anything like it. And again, I'm not a guy that traffics in hyperbole either, but that was unseen.
So we've all seen great players. We've all seen guys that we think could do what he did, but not actually do it. There's a difference between guys that will go out there, major in one side of the ball and be an elite player and be good enough for a package on the other side of the ball. We've seen that. Like Chris Gamble was a great player.
Right.
You remember,
Ohio State.
Yes. But what I've never seen, to echo your point, which I think is accurate, I've never seen ever a guy be the most elite player for the entire game on both sides.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. Honestly, and this is maybe the cynical side of me, because I watch a lot. I've done this now for a long time. Like, we're getting old, right? I've seen a lot of games. CJ, I was waiting for the moment where I was like, okay, there's going to be a moment where he is a half step slower.
Yep.
And maybe TCU even takes advantage of that. I don't know. Maybe he's going to have to come out of the game on offense. All these things are going through my mind just because of what we think we know about the sport. And I'll be damned if he wasn't the most elite player at snap 120, 125, 130, 135 in 100-degree heat. It was insane. It was insane. When you watch the film, the receiver that they were targeting, because he's the best receiver on the field on big downs in the fourth quarter, was Travis Hunter. Those drag routes.
That's right.
And he's running elite routes with instincts, timing, recognition, all of those things. And I will tell you, I don't think you can throw the ball towards him. I really don't. I said that during the show as well. I was like, do you remember after he had picked it and then he jumped another one and almost picked it?
That on it looked like a little slant or shallow post. Yeah.
I said right then, I was like, I think we're at the point where you just you can't do that. Wherever number 12 is, you just can't throw it over there. So that's pretty.
No, Joe, listen, you're spot on. That's the reason why I asked this guy to come on. He's hardly ever wrong. And the most profound thing I heard you say there, Joel.
CJ, you're right.
You got it. To echo your point, CJ, you're right. I love that. Hey, Coach Prime. Yeah. Again, we're talking about these players in such glowing terms, and they've deserved that. They earned that on the field of play this past week. And the coaching staff, I think, and it's also echoed in the points that we're making, deserves a great deal of credit for having this team as prepared as they were. Mm-hmm. Sean Lewis, Coach Kelly on the defensive side, I thought it was a masterclass in prepping your team for the moment. All that said, the Prime impact, or the Coach Prime effect on this program, Joel.
Yeah.
Just give me your impression of that, because it's bigger than that's even bigger than a 45-42 opening game victory against TCU.
Great question. I don't think we can measure it, what's actually happening. I know that we can kind of feel it and sense it, but I don't think we can measure it yet. There are, ways that you can try to measure it. We have 400% more followers on social media for CU, and merchandise sales up 500%, and season ticket sales double what they were a year ago. All of that, yeah, you're trying to put a number and a metric on it, but I don't think you can put a number or a metric on what he means right now to the narrative surrounding this program, its football team, and the institution as a whole. The amount of applicants now that are flooding into the institution because they see it and they want to be a part of the University of Colorado just to be a student. And it'll be even more after this weekend when they see the beautiful Flatirons and we're in Boulder. 7.2 million people watched that game Saturday. 7.2 million people. That's one of the largest audiences Colorado has played in front of in a long, long time. Long time. And it's because of Deion. He is, and this is why I've always been so bullish on this hire, he is his own gravitational pull. There are challenges at Colorado when it comes to regionalized recruiting in terms of local recruiting base. Okay. You can't open up the back door and get a top 15 class in the country. Okay. We all know that. We all know the challenges, but here's why Deion is so perfect for Colorado is because it doesn't matter where he's at. He's his own son. Everything revolves around him. He's his own gravitational pull, in particular in recruiting and when it comes to attention. He's on every national show out there. He's going to be on national TV to start, our prime game 2 weeks in a row. We're going to get another probably 5, 6, 7 million again this year. That's invaluable for a program and for an institution. And what I think that I would like to leave with you above everything else, all of that is great. The glitz and the glamour and the notoriety and the narrative and the shine, that's all great. What I love most about Deion is that he holds an exceedingly high standard for the players and the staff within the program. When I asked Charles Kelly, who was at Alabama the last 4 years, tell me how much is Deion like Nick Saban and how much is he different than Nick Saban? He said, well, they're way more alike than they are different. He said, you just see all the differences and hear all the differences. You don't see and hear what's behind closed doors. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he says, well, and a lot of people will tell you this, whether you're coaching for Nick Saban or playing for Nick Saban, every day is a reckoning. Tuesday, Wednesday, every day is a reckoning. Why? Because the standard is exceedingly high. Your behavior, your performance, your preparation, it's exceedingly high. Why was there so much turnover on this roster? Because the expectation was exceedingly high. They didn't kick everybody out. Those guys just couldn't meet the expectation. Okay, so that's why they were so disciplined. That's why the operation was so clean. That's why they played with such great heart and physicality and effort, is because every day for Coach Prime, it's a reckoning. And that's what makes you a great program.
I think that's the most undertold fact about, 9 or so months into the Coach Prime regime. It's the most undertold fact. And I appreciate you bringing that to light because, as you mentioned, he's his own force. And so much of it is Showtime entertainment as it's received by us and, quite frankly, as it's presented by Coach Prime. But the substance we better take note of the substance. Otherwise, we'll miss the big lesson or the big point in all this. Joe, before I let you go, there's no way I could end this show without looking forward, looking ahead. You have a big weekend. We all have a big week. I look forward to seeing you here at Folsom Field as you'll do it back to back. It's Nebraska coming to town under these circumstances. Give us your we'll break down we'll have another time to do this. We'll talk about our call to the governor of Nebraska, your call, in which you almost got us banned from radio.
Almost got us fired from a radio show
on the spot. And it was a makeshift radio show too. We almost got.
How do you get fired from a makeshift radio show? Oh, hey, man. Let me tell you how. You call the governor of Nebraska and don't tell him that he's on the air.
Unbelievable. So what do you see? You do this stuff for a living. You're the best in the business. What do you see?
Colorado has a major challenge on its hands this week, and that is trying to get back to that level that they played last week while everyone is telling them they're the greatest. Human nature is to be comfortable, and complacency in a large respect is the greatest enemy to greatness. And so that's the biggest challenge for Colorado, because I can tell you, I covered both teams. Colorado is the better team probably, but it's not by much. And Nebraska will not make the same mistakes that TCU made. Nebraska will not throw the ball 45 times.
Yeah.
Right at the teeth of the strength of the Colorado defense, which is the secondary. That Colorado defensive front seven better be ready for about 50 quarterback power plays. This is going to be a physical game, and Nebraska will run it at what they will consider to be Colorado's weakness, which is their run defense. Meanwhile, I fully expect their defense to try to throw the kitchen sink at Sheduer and as far as looks go, because he just showed the nation that if you just kind of stand there, he'll pick you apart.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be a challenge this week. And I think the greatest challenge will be trying to fight complacency. How do you play with the same level of urgency, with the same effort, and the same attention to detail that you did last week when everyone was doubting you and you had the entire summer to look at that one game? I think that's the challenge, and that's what I'll be looking for. Nebraska is going to run the ball a lot, try to keep Colorado on the sideline, try to keep Sheduer on the sideline. And then on the flip side, I just feel like they're going to try to give every defensive look possible to Sheduer that they possibly can.
It's that human nature thing that you're right. After having success, you have to, get back in the arena and start all over again. Joel, we'll look forward to what happens up at Folsom Field. It's a 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time kick up early.
You know what I call 10 a.m. Mountain?
What's that?
On Fox, for Gus and I, it's prime time.
It's prime time. That's exactly right. Hey, by the way, speaking of prime time, I noticed it's the Joel Klatt show behind you. Tell us a little bit about. See, when you get big time, you get your name on your show. You notice my situation. This Black and Gold Weekly, right?
What's up with that?
One day, bro. Tell us about Joel Klatt, the Joel Klatt show.
Man, I tell you, I started a podcast last year, and it's gone really well. I'm thankful I did it. I really enjoy it. As you know, I love hearing myself talk. So you can get it wherever you download your podcast. You can also find it on YouTube at Joel Klatt Show. You can subscribe there, and we give episodes 3 times a week. And go check it out. A lot of good stuff.
My man, I know it's the best because I've had a chance to check it out myself. So, hey, I really appreciate the time. Give the family my love. Looking forward to seeing you Saturday, buddy.
You got it. All right. I'll see you then.
All right. My guy, Joel Klatt. It's the Black and Gold Weekly presented by BetSafe Colorado. Look, we'll do it again next week. We promise to have a great guest. I'm not going to let the cat out the bag. Don't know if he can be as good as this guest, but stay tuned. He'll be coming up next week. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the week. Go Buffs.